discussion? Questions be called, vote. All in favor, sorry.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is passed. Next item is the approval of minutes from December 10th and December 18th. 2019 regular minutes to council. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Second. Question be called. All in favor? Aye. Contrary, motion is passed. Next item would be correspondence information that's been circulated. Does any councilor wish to raise any concerns? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Just the one, it's the January 24th from the East Hants Portable Housing Roundtable. Just 3 quick points. It was a good stakeholders meeting with good open discussion, but there's 3 things came out of it that I think are important for council. It's the time of day that these are held. I think they understand that evening sessions would get more people there than through the day. They also realize that there are public info gathering sessions throughout East Hants, not just in one location, and the shore amount of living active area is included. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing nothing else, we'll move on to correspondence from Susan. These are 4 items. First item would be is to ask to approve temporary board resolution for upcoming blue payments for decorated before the Mapping Center. Ready to make that motion?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Questions? Councilor King, you have a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Just a question that came to me through one of our local business people. The 6.5% borrowing rate is almost 3 percentage points higher than the prime. And his question was, and I did talk with the CAO, but he asked that I raise the question publicly as well. Is the municipality able to borrow closer to the prime rate?
I think that just says the maximum not to exceed, so the rate is the whole thing. Just allow the leverage in case the rate increase.
Thank you.
The question? Will we vote? All those ready? Unanimous. Next item is we have to be in conference. The budget for the warden and I believe CAO with 3 councils to go. We have a chance. Anybody wish to put the name forward?
If nobody else would like to go, I was the one last year. I can go again. I thought it was a very informational process and good things to happen.
One. Space available by budget. Anybody else? Councilor Luther.
Yes, I think if nobody wants to go, I'll pass it on.
Procedure usually negotiate, but no motion available. So if that's the only people, I did a motion to send Christie, Woody, Perry, Councilor Luther, CAO, myself, and PG to CM conference.
So, second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Question. Question be called. Is there a vote? One more vote. Motion is unanimous. We have a request from Gary Burrow, NDP leader, to meet with council in their thoughts. What is council's wish? Council.
Mr. Warden, I don't think it ever is put in hand, if the provincial politicians, whatever the strike, so I would certainly move to invite
final item is the NSFN, to seek the input for topic discussions for NSFN Spring Fall Conferences, deadline suggestion for February 3rd. Does any council have anything in addition to put forward? Council Olson?
Well, sometimes the UNSPIN, I still want to call it the Union of Nova Scotia Municipalities, it's hard to change. The NSFN, sometimes has a little more quirk in individual municipalities, and I don't know if they've addressed this in the past or not, but I would like to see them make some requests from the federal government regarding the gas tax funding, and see if we could get their support in opening that up so that the more rural areas would use their share of the gas tax to work with our volunteer fire service or something.
Cody did ask for priorities and we're putting a list forward and you gave us the copy of it and something. But I think if you want to. If you specifically want it on the conference, I think you should put it down as a separate.
I would move that we submit the use of gas tax for rural fire departments to the NSFN as a possible resolution to come from, as a conference topic and possible resolution for our council.
Second. Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Questions called, we'll go to vote. All votes are in, this passed unanimously. Committee reports.
Thank you, Gordon. The committee held its regular meeting on January 22nd, 2020 in council chambers. There are no motions coming forward as a result of the meeting. However, there are two items. Number one, accessibility plan. The committee discussed that the municipality's accessibility plan should contain and review draft content. A work plan for the next 6 months was agreed upon. Second point, municipalities prescribed as a public sector body. The province of Nova Scotia has announced that public sector bodies under the Provincial Assembly Act will have up to April 1st, 2021 to prepare an accessibility plan. Chair of the committee, I move the adoption of the report.
Thank you. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Contrary, motion passed. Next item on the agenda is corporate relevant resident services.
Committee held its regular meeting on January 21st, 2020 in council chambers. The following motion is coming forward as a result of the meeting. 2020-21 budget presentation. As part of the budget discussion, cybersecurity was identified as an immediate need and funds allocated to begin the process. The Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends to council that council authorize the CAO to initiate and implement cybersecurity for the municipality immediately. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded, is there any further discussion? Question called, we'll go to the vote. Petition. All votes are in, it's passed unanimously.
Chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Moved and seconded, further discussion? Question called, all in favor? Aye. Contrary, motion is passed. Next item would be Parks and Recreation, Council Lyon.
Committee held its regular meeting January 21st, 2020 in council chambers. The following motions are coming forward as a result of the meeting. Special Olympic aquatic rental. As per motion C-19-307, staff was directed to prepare a report of review in January 2020 that outlines the not-for-profit associated with the coveted Special Olympics use of the East Hants Aquatic Center. From that, the Parks and Recreation and Culture Committee recommend to council that council waive the coveted Special Olympics swimming rental fees for 1 year from April 2020 to April 2021
to be reviewed based on participation prior to next year's budget. Chair of the committee, I do so move.
Moved and seconded, is there any further discussion? Councilor McGinnis.
Thank you, Chair. I don't believe that the motion reflects the actual intent of council, and I don't believe that it gives good direction. It simply says to be reviewed based on participation prior to next year's budget, but it doesn't say what the consequence would be if participation changed and so on. My intent was to waive the quote-unquote Special Olympics swimming rental fees and have it grandfathered as waived, but have it reviewed annually during the budget based on participation, and only if participation increased would there be a charge for the increased usage at the not-for-profit rate. So I have a motion crafted here, and if the motion that's on the floor fails, then I would make that motion. But as the motion stands now, I won't be supporting it. Thank you, Chair.
Councilor Wolf.
Often I disagree with my colleague here, but I guess tonight it's it. I think the motion does what we intended it to do. It waives the fees for this year, and it gives instruction that the fees would be reviewed again prior to budget next year. Council, at that time, whoever is here in council at that time, would review the situation at that time and make a decision as to whether or not to continue to waive the fees or whether or not they would be charged. So I think, as long as the review is there, there's certainly the opportunity to continue to provide with raising the fees. And so I'll be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor McGinnis.
Just one more thing, the 20 years that it has been free, I believe, should be grandfathered and continue. And I think if we don't actually specifically put that in the motion for the existing program that's being provided at an annual cost of $720 a year, then we are putting the group in a position of having to pay going forward. And in my view, the paying going forward should only be if more facilities are used. Thank you, Warden.
Questions be called, go to the vote. The motion is passed. The 10 voting for, Councilor McGinnis voting nay.
Second, quarter community options for adults, community partnership grant. As part of the council's 2019-2020 budget discussions, council allocated funding for a community partnership grant for the quarter community options for adults. This grant was to be reviewed and approved by council once an application was submitted. It would appear that although the motion CRS 1911 was approved by executive committee, the actual motion made at executive committee to recommend the approval of the 2019-2020 community partnership grants was never approved by council. So to rectify this, council is now asked to approve the list of recommended community partnership fund organizations for 2019-2020 pending final budget approval. Funds remaining in the 2019-2020 operating budget to support the organizations. Community Partnership Fund Organization 2019 East Hants Community Rider 15,000. East Hants Family Resource Center 10,000. East Hants Sport Heritage Society 5,000. East Hants Youth Links 6,000. Senior Safety Program Association of Hants County, 20,000, and that the funds remain in the 2019 and 2020 budget for the following purposes. With grants award pending a further discussion of council, quarter community options for adults, 15,000. As chair of the committee, I do so move.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? called, we'll go to the vote. All the votes are in, it's passed unanimously.
Staff recently received Community Partnership Fund application from CCOS. The grant committee reviewed the application and confirmed it meets the requirements set out by council's policy. CCOA will utilize this funding towards operational cost as well as program development and or special projects. The objective of the Community Partnership Fund supports operational use and or additional projects. So, from that, the Parks and Recreation and Culture Committee recommends council. Council approve the funding request of $15,000 by Total Community Options for adults for recommended Community Partnership Fund for 2019-2020. The chair of the committee will do so move.
Second. Moved and seconded, is there any further discussion? None, the question is called, we'll go to the vote. All the votes are in, it's passed unanimously.
Mr. Warden, council recommendation on the floor, the chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this.
Moved and seconded, any further discussion? Good question? All in favor? Contrary, motion passed. Next item would be the Planning Advisory Committee, Councilor Green.
Committee held its regular meeting on January 21st, 2020 in council chambers. The following motions are coming forward as a result of the meeting. Item 1, WM Fairs Rabai Development Agreement, resubmission mixed-use development on Highway 214 Elmsdale. The municipality has received a new application from Lino Rabai to enter into a development agreement for a mixed-use development of land located between Highway 214 and the 9 Mile River. This application is a resubmission of an application which was refused by council in December 2019. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends to council that council give initial consideration to entering into a development agreement for a mixed-use development on land located at PID number 450-85248, Highway 214 Elmsdale, for the purpose of enabling a public hearing and authorize staff to schedule a public hearing. Chair of the committee, I so move.
Moved and seconded, is there any further discussion? Councilor Ryan.
Yes, I will be voting not in favor of this. My stance on this is it changed very little, only 14 feet from the previous proposal, which was at that time defeated. Not against the commercial on 214 at all. We do have a problem with six-story apartment building that's going to be built next to the River. So, and to me, the opponent knew that height requirements and chose not to do it. I will not be voting in.
Councilor Wilson.
I would just echo Councilor Ryan's comment.
If no one else to speak to the vice question, question's been called, we'll go to the vote. All the votes are in, it's passed, 7-4. Councilor Dixon, Wolston, Rhino, and King voting nay.
Item number 2, 2359 Highway 2 Milford, NPS and LUB mapping amendments, first reading. In preparation for the opening of the East Hants Aquatic Center and disposal of the former East Hants Pool in Milford, East Hants Council accepted a bid to purchase the Milford Pool. As part of the bid, ATL Dairy Automation Limited requested the property be zoned appropriately to match their business use. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends to council that council give first reading to an NPS and LUB mapping amendment proposal to change the designation of a portion of 2359 Highway 2 Milford, PID number 451-48244, to rural use designation, and rezone the same portion to rural use zone to enable the property to be used for agricultural-related uses, including but not limited to the fabrication and repair of farm equipment and rental and retail services related to agriculture, and to authorize staff to schedule a public hearing. Chair of the committee, I so move.
Moved and seconded, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll open the question, question's been called, we'll go to the vote. All the votes are in, it's passed unanimously.
Item 3, Armco Capital. The The municipality has received an application from Armco Capital Incorporated to amend the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw, and to enter into a development agreement for a mixed-use master plan development, including a mixture of low, medium, and higher density residential development, a mixed-use center, and open space. A maximum of 2,205 residential units are proposed. There are 7 properties under consideration through this application. The committee received staff's final report on the application and will present a recommendation to council at a public hearing in February. Item 4, 1705 Highway 2 Milford, incase amendment, will be dealt at the public hearing. Item 5, subdivision bylaw amendments, open space, will be dealt with at the public hearing. Item 6, enforcement policy update. Staff are proposing a waste container dumpster/bin program that may be utilized for property owners who may have difficulty cleaning up their property due to health or financial issues. This program requires a change to the dangerous and unsightly premises enforcement policy. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends to council that council adopt the changes to the dangerous or unsightly premises enforcement policy as recommended in staff's report as attached to the Executive Committee agenda of January 21st, 2020. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, question can call. We'll go to the vote. All votes are in, passed unanimously. I don't know the vote. Oh, okay, it was the old vote, sorry. Just looked over and it was there. Passed unanimously again.
As chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Questions can call. All in favor? Aye. Contrary, motion is passed. Well, that will bring us to business for council. We have 5 minutes. There's no business for order on this, but I have nothing, so unless someone has any questions, I'll just move on to business for council. Councilor Smith.
Thank you. I've had some inquiries from the Clayton Group, and I've asked that the CA, put those on the same for the CA, put those at the environment executive, if council is not opposed to that.
When was it scheduled to be looked at? On the regular scheme of things, we're still waiting for some feedback.
Yeah, there are several items still to be resolved with the applicant, but, you know, if we didn't have a report in February, we'd probably bring an update in March anyway, just to let you know what's going on.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Yes, that's all.
Councilor Musa.
Nothing to report at this time, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilor Green.
Nothing to respond with.
Trustee Wood Terry.
Nothing to report this time.
Councilor McGinnis.
Thank you, Gordon. Just a couple of things. I attended a federal pre-budget consultation hosted by Cody in Windsor the other day. There were about 100 people there, a number of them spoke, and the most prominent topic was the environment. Many people referred to the environment in their comments about what should be in the budget, followed by the increasing gap between rich and poor, inefficient banking system, unfair taxation, and a few other things that were specific to groups. Cody did stay afterwards and talk to a few people about their specific issues. The other topic, a doctor recruitment working group in Shipby invited me to a meeting last week. And since then, we've been trying to figure out the best direction and have been in touch with Margaret Miller and the NSHA, as you all know. And there's another meeting with that group coming up next week. So we're trying to develop a strategy and see what we can do since we had a doctor retiring in April. And one final thing, you know, there was the usual community interaction, and I had a beautiful roast beef dinner at the Rodman Fire Hall on Sunday. Thank you, Warden.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Councilor Head.
Nothing at this time, Woody, thank you.
Councilor Roper.
I was just saying, I did talk to Karen Sawyer about beautiful roast beef dinner at the council, we're gonna start talking about that on Sunday, yes. Nothing else at this time, I did have staff. And, is and is not. And I've never really received answers to those questions. So at some point in time, it's just a big note that I'm going to be raising those two. And, I guess, also, in case anybody else hasn't noticed, it's cold, very cold. The heat is not working, never works well, but it's not working at all tonight. And the air conditioning is blowing cold air down our necks. So this is another heads up that when we get into capital budget discussions, I'm gonna be looking for some money somewhere to do a complete investigation or whatever has to be done to this HVAC system in this council chambers, because it's kind of ridiculous to be paying for air conditioning to be run in January. Thank you.
Possibly during budget discussions, we'll put that on the capital budget, or maybe we'll bring it out there.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Just three quick things. Receiving several calls and messages and emails from residents in my district. Three main areas. One was speeding dump trucks along Elmsdale Road and Highway 2, trucks that were servicing the Lance interchange. The RCMP did receive a lot of public complaints, highway vehicle compliance was involved and whatnot, so I think that's been handled. Snow and ice control concerns, I know we had a couple, one for sure unexpected snow events. I did forward letters and pictures onto the CAO and the Director Ryan, and I appreciate them and their staff investigating that. The third one, I have received some calls and a couple emails regarding the opening of the aquatic center. I think overall people are really looking forward to it, but there has been a bit of concern with delays. Two questions seem to emerge. One is it within budget? And another one, will there be a public report when it's completed, which includes, a little bit around the delays, budget, et cetera? Thank you, Mr. Warden.
Thank you. Councilor Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Wooden. As Councilor King spoke earlier this evening, I also attended the affordable roundtable discussion on affordable housing, which I found interesting and hopefully was something we'll pursue. In the last couple of months, we've been talking with CCOA and Infield. They're still continuing their major fundraising and are now venturing into looking at other property options. So I just thought I'd bring that attention here in case you hear any story. As well as Councilor King, we had some snow and snow removal issues, and I'd like to thank staff for, I think we got them all resolved with some good communications, so thank you to staff. And the other board to sit on is Community Rider, and they have expanded into Halifax County, and things are working out well, and now looking at increasing their vehicles. Thank you, Mr. Warden.
I'm going to do this one more, we're only a minute out right now. Councilor Ryan.
Nothing at this time, Warden.
All right, this brings us time for our demolition hearing. Members of council, we have a hearing scheduled to consider a proposed demolition order for 7692 Highway 354 North Knoll Road. I'd like to thank all of those for taking the time to attend tonight's hearing. At this hearing, there will be an opportunity for the owner of the property or their representative to speak directly to council prior to the decision being made. Pursuant to section 345 of the MGA, only municipal council has the authority to order the demolition of a building and should be in a position to make a decision on the property in question following the staff report and any presentations from the owner. I would now ask the Municipal Director of Planning and Economic Development, or Planning and Development, to present his report.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Okay, so section 344 of the MGA states that every person in a municipality shall, or every property in a municipality shall be maintained so as not to be dangerous or unsightly. And East Hants enforces this dangerous or unsightly property provision on the basis of complaints, unless staff find the situation of immediate public safety concern. Typically, after a complaint is received, staff investigate a property to determine whether or not a dangerous or unsightly condition does exist. If such a condition is found, staff will contact the owner and request that the owner clean up the property within a specified period of time, usually 30 or 60 days. And if that doesn't happen, then we proceed to an order for the administrator's signature. And that authority is granted again through the MGA. It states, where a property is dangerous or unsightly, the council may order the owner to remedy the condition by removal, demolition, or repair, specifying in the order what is required to be done. And furthermore, council's authority can and has been delegated to the administrator. In our case, that's a CAO. However, the MJ also states that council may by policy delegate some or all of its authority pursuant to this part, except the authority to order demolition to the administrator. As a result, only council can order the demolition of the building, and staff is requesting that consideration be given to issue a demolition order for the property at 7692 Highway 354. And so that's just an air photo of the property with the subject structure highlighted. And in February 2019, council approved a demolition order for this property requiring the owner to demolish 2 dilapidated mobile homes within 120 days of the date of the posting. That order was posted in March, and the owner had until July to complete the demolition. In August, after no action was taken, the municipality had a contractor remove the 2 mobile homes and the associated debris, and the cost was posted as a lien against the property. At the time of demolition, it was noted that an accessory building on the property had caved in on one side. However, it was not part of the original demolition order and therefore could not be removed under that original order. Concerns were raised from residents as it was deteriorating, could blow onto the highway or adjacent properties, and due to its close proximity to the road, make it a possible dangerous situation. The notice was then posted on the property of November 7th, 2019, giving the owner additional 30 days to demolish that structure. An inspection in December confirmed no work had been completed, and it actually was re-inspected this week and is in about the same condition. It is therefore recommended that the accessory buildings be demolished and that associated debris removed from the property. And these are just a few photos that show the structure. That's one side, and that's the side that's falling in now. So the MGA indicates that where demolition is proposed to be ordered, the landowner is required to be given at least 7 days' notice of the date, time, and place of the meeting, that's tonight, at which the order will be considered. The section also indicates that property owners need to be given an opportunity to appear at the meeting and have an opportunity to speak to the issue prior to an order being made. In this case, a letter was sent to the property owner to the address as provided through assessment records and within the appropriate notice period. A copy of the letter was also posted to the property, and a representative will have an opportunity to address council tonight. If council does approve an order, it will be served on the property by a special constable, and after the 90-day time frame expires, staff would then conduct an inspection. If the structure was removed, then simply close the file. If it isn't, then we'd be in a position to engage a contractor to remove the structure. And the cost of that work would become a lien against the property. So again, staff became aware of an issue in August 2019 that a dangerous situation might exist during the removal of the 2 dilapidated mobile homes through a previous demolition order. After investigation, staff came to the conclusion that the property contained an accessory structure which requires demolition, and the MGA authorizes council and only council to order the demolition of that building. Therefore, staff are recommending that council authorize the administrator to issue an order to require the demolition of the accessory structure within 90 days. And the recommendation is that the recommended motion be considered after the property owner is given an opportunity to address council, and then it's recommended motion. Thank you, Mr. Warden.
Thank you. Does every member of council have any questions for the director? Councilor Rogers.
So at the time of the previous inspection of the 2 mobile homes, did not the inspector see the so-called building that has collapsed now? And if they did they inspect it at that time? It just seems like I'm trying to get at, if it was bad then, why did not staff inform us? Maybe it wasn't bad at that point, but what, like, I mean, if it all comes, if we're going through this again for the same property, it should all, probably all been taken once.
Through you, Mr. Warden, as I understand it, that was the case, that when we first visited the property, this particular structure wasn't falling down the way it is now, so it wasn't captured in that original order for that reason.
Does any other member of council have any questions? Seeing none? There are 3 registered owners of this property. We are aware that 2 are deceased, William Harvey and Richard Addison Harvey. The 3rd property owner is Edward Hants. I would now ask if the owner or a representative of the late owners would like to address council. Please come to the mic and state your name and address.
Yeah, excuse me. My name is Edward Collins, and I'm the owner of the property there. When I first got the notice, I hadn't been home for a while. That's the reason it wasn't taken care of. But now, since I've been down there, the west side is gone, the south wall is gone, the east wall is gone, and there's just a bunch of lumber there. Like, I've still got the north wall up and 2 small rooms that I've got to do away with. I have been working on it, and the boards I have taken off and everything, they have been burnt on the site. And I'd like to have just a little bit more time to finish up on that, which I'm in a lot better shape than I was last year. I was fighting pneumonia last year. That's what happened to mobiles.
So in 90 days, give you enough time?
It should, yes.
So if we proceed with the way it's going right now, it'll give you 90 days and then the inspection will go forward?
Sure, yes.
Councilor Wilson?
I just wondered, and pleased to hear that the 90 days will give enough time, so that's good. The recent motion that we just passed, providing a dumpster for use in these situations, and this might be an opportunity for staff to discuss with Mr. Collins as to whether that would be helpful to him in removing the rest of the structure that's remaining to be taken down. Time could be arrived between them and a dumpster could be in sight when they put stuff into it. Certainly, I would think that make it easier. The no cost huge for that.
That's one thing too, like I had a few things in the house there, like an old stove and stuff like that, and right now I have no way to get that to dump or anything, so a dumpster would really, really come in.
Does any other member of council have any questions for the? Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
I would move.
Recommended motion.
All right. So we have a motion, we have any further discussion?
Yes.
Questions and calls, we'll go to the vote. And all the votes are passed unanimously, so we can move forward, that'll give you your 90 days, and if you contact planning staff, they'll be able to assist you possibly in getting a dumpster there so you can get those bigger items that you can't get disposed of now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're a few minutes early for the public hearing, so we'll take a
Well,
3 minutes.
Mr. Warden, it was actually advertised at 7:30, so I think
Oh,
we're
was it?
fine to
Okay,
proceed.
so
So.
we're good to start? Councilor Wilson?
I just wondered if perhaps planning staff could follow up with Mr. Collins as well, because I'm sure he wouldn't know who in planning he should contact, but just hate to lose the opportunity for him to get a dumpster.
I see Kelly shaking her head, so I'm sure she'll get a hold of you. All right, since we're advertised for 7:30, we're good to go. The CAO was just updating me, we do have people in the overflow room, so make sure the mics are directed so that they can hear. Councilors, this evening we have 2 items on the public hearing agenda. The purpose of this hearing is for council to hear input from the public prior to making a decision on these proposals. The members of the public who have chosen to come this evening, welcome. Please note that council's procedural policy requires that you not cheer, boo, clap, or otherwise disrupt this hearing. Everybody that wishes will have an opportunity to speak. Tonight, council may approve, reject, or defer its decision on the proposal to a later date. Council approval is required for these proposals to proceed. I will now ask the municipal clerk to outline when the public hearing advertisements were published.
Mr. Warden, a public hearing notice appeared in the January 14th and 21st editions of the Chronicle Herald. The notices described the proposals, gave the date, time, and location of the public hearing, and indicated that staff reports were available to the public.
Thank you. Council, the first item on the public hearing schedule is a proposal to amend the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw to enable rail-related development in Milford. I would now ask the chair of Planning Advisory Committee to present his report. Councilor Green.
Thank you, Warden. Planning Advisory Committee has considered the proposal on behalf of Municipal Council. The committee has reviewed staff's reports, completed their evaluation, and will make a recommendation to council during this hearing. Mr. Warden, through you, I would now ask staff to present their final report on the proposal.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Warden. So a bit of background. This is, again, a proposal to redesignate and rezone approximately 18 acres or 7.28 hectares of municipally owned land at 1705 Highway 2 in Milford. The change would be from agricultural reserve AR to industrial commercial IC. There was a public information meeting held back in June 2019. First reading was given back in the summer in July. And the last step in the process is the public hearing tonight. And just on that overhead, you can see the area outlined with the red dots. That's the area that's proposed to be rezoned. There is a larger property, and I'll get to that in the next slide, but you can also see the Shubenacadie River on the right side of that slide, and then the quarry just beyond, and then the white road leading up to Highway 2, which is the Milford Quarry Access Road, and then you can see the rail spur that leads into the quarry, as well as the CN main line that borders the west side of the site. So then on the next slide, this is the current zoning. And again, as you can see, the current zoning is AR, that's a brown color, this large area. And again, the area we're talking about rezoning is that 18 acres of the west side of the property. Other zones in the area include additional AR zone properties as well as rural use. And most of those rural use properties along Highway 2 are residential properties. And then there's also one institutional use property that you can see there in blue, that's a church. And again, the total property is 58 acres in size, so 18 of the 58 is what's proposed to be rezoned. And council approved the acquisition of this property back in 2015. And since that time, the municipality has developed a park along the river, Whitwater Station Park. And a site plan on the next slide which shows some of the development that's happened there. So there was a dock put in as well as some trails and a picnic area, and that, again, just to orient from the left to the right here, so that's the road coming in, and it sort of goes to the crest of the hill and then down through the switchback to the river, and that's where the park area has been developed. The area that's proposed to be rezoned is the area on the left side, the sort of blank area there where you don't see any park facilities proposed, and that's the approximate area of about 18 acres. And I guess I should reiterate on that slide that there is no proposal here to rezone any portion of the park or to sell any portion of the park, but I think there was some information floating around to that effect, but that's not the case. So the development proposal, since 2006, the municipality has been investigating the concept of rail-related development. And there have been a number of iterations that have come from both the municipality and outside the municipality, called either an inland port intermodal logistics center or a rail side reload center. More recently, our economic and business development department has fielded inquiries regarding the purchase or lease of this land for smaller scale rail-related development. And there were a couple of businesses that came forward that we're aware of. One was proposing to bring propane to the site by rail car and then distributing it by truck from that site. There was another business interested in doing some work related to the offshore industry, storage of mud and chemicals related to the offshore industry and bringing from the port as needed. There's no current development proposal for this site. However, council has directed staff to continue this process to enable future proposals to come forward. And there's no question by not having the industrial zoning on it now does make it tougher for economic development to market the site. I guess they're not actively marketing it right now. Although even with that, they do get 1 or 2 inquiries a year related to rail land. And again, this proposal would only relate to that 18 acres. So going to slide 5. In terms of policy analysis, so when we updated our planning strategy in 2016, this issue was discussed and the background paper prepared. And the result of that was this new policy in the municipal planning strategy. There's some preamble there, but the policy states that in the interest of pursuing a unique economic development opportunity related to rail access, council may consider future amendments to this strategy and land use bylaw. So the proposed redesignation and rezoning that we're talking about here would be in compliance with that policy by enabling future rail-related development. There are a number of issues, I guess, that we looked at in the policy analysis. The first had to do with the loss of agricultural land. First of all, I would point out that the proposal was not reviewed by the municipality's Agricultural Advisory Committee. Council decided not to direct it there. Currently, the area is planned as part of the Canadian Food Grain Bank project. And when that land is, or if and when that land is developed, obviously there would be the loss of that 7 hectares of Class 3 land from agriculture. There was an agricultural impact study done back in 2010 for a larger proposal. It's not specifically related to this proposal, but I thought it was a good reference to pull out some of the issues. And that study found that there would have been more Class 3 land loss in that larger proposal, over 10 hectares. And that 10.7 hectares would have equated to 0.24% of the agricultural reserve zone lands in East Hants. The report concluded that such a facility could have an impact on nearby farming activity, but the proposal should have a relatively low impact, overall impact on agricultural production within the study area. And then there were some caveats. If development on agricultural land is restricted to the current proposed area, noise, light, and drainage mitigation measures are included in project design, truck traffic is restricted to the proposed access road, and future expansion is restricted to non-agricultural zone land. And obviously, until there is a specific proposal, a number of those details won't be known, but this information can be used as a guide in any lease or sale negotiation, as well as in any future development agreement application. Overall, staff are of the opinion that the proposal would not significantly reduce the continuation of agricultural use beyond this specific site. Other issues that came up, so the first one was compatibility with surrounding land uses. There are a number of as-of-right uses. Once if it's zoned industrial commercial, that would include warehousing, manufacturing, and so on. And impacts from light as well as noise from truck and train movements would be a concern for nearby residential uses. And I think the current truck and train movements associated with the gypsum corridor are a good indicator of the possible types of impacts we're talking about. Our economic and business development department indicated that the municipality should consider placing obligations on any future development to provide adequate buffer to those nearby residential uses. And particular attention should be paid to this issue in site design, as the nearest dwellings are less than 100 meters from the subject site. Noxious uses, what we call noxious uses in the land use bylaw, which would include the handling of dangerous goods, and those 2 earlier proposals that I mentioned, they would also require a further development agreement to be approved by council following a public hearing, so a similar process to this. In such an application, obviously the proximity of those dwellings and farms for that matter would be a key consideration. Another issue related to site access and servicing. So Nova Scotia Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal does not anticipate a negative impact on the provincial road network, and they found that the National Gypsum Quarry Road entrance acceptable. They did indicate that this may require reassessment with future development. Obviously, again, there's not a specific proposal, so they don't know how many truck movements and so on, but generally they found the entrance and the road acceptable. The Milford and District Volunteer Fire Department commented that they foresee no issues with site access. However, they are recommending that an on-site water source be incorporated into any development to ensure an adequate supply of water in an emergency response. And municipal sewer and water service are not available at this site. As a result, any proposal would require on-site sewer and water service. In terms of the environment, Nova Scotia Environment commented and that there's a nearby wetland and water course on the western boundary of the property parallel to the rail line. The water course has been identified as potential habitat for aquatic species at risk, Atlantic salmon. And given that direct rail access is a key component of any future development here, that would obviously be an important design constraint, given that the water course again runs parallel to the rail line. So in summary, many of the issues raised will not be able to be dealt with until there is a specific development proposal for the site. However, given the clear policy direction provided by that earlier policy that talked about rail access, ED 48, it indicates council intended to consider future amendments to enable rail-related development at this site. Staff are of the opinion that the proposed change is consistent with the spirit and intent of the NPS. In terms of citizen engagement, public information meeting again was held in June. MO's comments expressed at that meeting had concerns with the proposal. The meeting notes were posted for PAC and council from that meeting. And a public questionnaire was also mailed to all properties within 500 meters of the subject property. And those questionnaires that we received back raised concerns with noise, light, truck traffic, devaluation of property, loss of farmland, and compliance with the provincial statement of interest for agricultural land. Lack of commercial interest in the site also indicated that the property should have been resold instead of held by the municipality. Concern that industrial development will impact Brookwater Station Park. The loss of the Canadian Food Grains Bank project from the property. A petition opposed to the proposed designation and zone change has also been received by the municipality regarding the proposal. There were a total of 175 signatures included in that petition, although staff didn't try to verify addresses or anything like that. Staff had not verified. And the petition indicates that residents of Milford wish to remain a rural residential area without infringement from industrial development. The petition also raises concerns with possible noise, land, air, and water pollution. And the petition also notes that agricultural land should be preserved. And that's my report. Thank you, Mr. Ward.
Does any member of the council have any questions for staff?
John, can you hear me okay? If this passes tonight, can it be appealed by a public member?
Through you, Mr. Warden, no, because it's a strategy amendment, the process is different, so we don't put that in the paper and give 14-day appeal. It goes to the minister, so it needs provincial approval because we're changing policy. If it was a straight rezoning, it would be appealable, but because there's an NPS amendment, it's not.
Can the process be appealed?
It would have to be some sort of court challenge that there was something wrong with the process or we erred in law somehow, but there's no process like there is for a rezoning or development agreement.
Okay, because I was led to believe by an individual today that the process, if a public member found the process wasn't followed, that they could actually make an appeal.
Again, I'm not sure, Mr. Warden, how that would work. It would be a legal process. It wouldn't be the normal, process that's laid out through the utility review board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I have a similar question. Was it appealable? And it appears that it's not. And I guess the other question I had was any type of class action, if it's not approved, that a paid community can pursue.
Again,
That's
Mr. Warden.
probably a tough one.
Yeah, that's a legal question. I guess I'm not in a position to answer that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Question for you, John. The province had asked us to work on policy or bylaw for preservation for agricultural land. And what we're doing now is, what we're proving to the public now, if we do it just for the municipality, if somebody else come in and want to rezone for, he told me I bought this land, I had intention to turn it into commercial, and like we did. So are you gonna approve for them too, or are you gonna just pass it for us?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Warden. I mean, every situation is unique, I guess, and it depends on what other policies you're looking at. If somebody just wanted land taken out of the agricultural reserve because, and there were no other policy to refer to, staff would probably recommend against it, but because you have this other policy that talks about railside development in this area, that's why staff recommended for it. So it's unique in that respect.
No other councilors up to speak, so we'll move on. Does any member of staff have any comments?
Not yet.
I will now open the floor to comments or questions. If you wish to speak, please come to the mic, state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Tara O'Grady. I live at 173 number 2. Seems how nervous. My property is actually directly behind the property that you're thinking about rezoning. My question is, we don't have municipal services like water and sewer. So say you do put an industrial, some kind of format, whatever you decide to put there, what's going to happen to our well water? You know, right now I have plenty of water, but if you put something huge like that in there, water is going to be used. What's going to happen to my fellow neighbors and us when we don't have any water? That's my concern. And like Northern Pulp, everyone was about the environment. I know this has nothing to do with it, but it's going to cause, say they do put propane or gas or something like that. I'm like, the smells and all that, you know, how's that going to affect me? I'm directly behind that property. Like, those are my concerns. The noise, you know, I wake up now at 4:30 in the morning to slamming rail cars, and, you know, I have, you know, I'm just concerned about noise and my water, my safety of my water, you know, things like that I'm very concerned about.
Sure. Well, if it was, as I said earlier, if there was a use that we would call noxious, so if there were fumes associated with it or dangerous goods, it wouldn't be able to go ahead until there was a development agreement in place, at which time I guess we would get more information about exactly how the property would be developed. And residents and adjoining property owners would have another opportunity to have a look at that and let council think about it.
It was a water intensive type situation. If the council asked for a hybrid geological study to be done,
Well, through you, Mr. Warden, this is kind of a unique case because the municipality owns the land. Through a DA process, you could probably ask for it if it was just a sale or lease agreement, but you could ask for it there too. As the seller of the land or the leaser of the land, you could ask for things you can't ask for as a regulator.
Hi, my name is Ryan Vandenhoff. My family owns a farm at 307 Nelson Hill in Melford, but we own the land basically directly across where sort of the church is there. So my question was, if you're willing to rezone this from agricultural to industrial commercial, that sets a dangerous precedent, and you've got another about 15 acres behind that. You say here that future expansion is restricted to non-agricultural zones. What's to stop you from rezoning that agricultural that's right there into commercial land? Because it's connected already, and you have set the precedent there.
Well, through you, Mr. Warden, I guess if there was any further proposal, it would have to go through the same process.
Once it's there, sorry. But once it's already done, wouldn't it just be an easier process than now with less feedback from the community because it's already there? So you're looking at taking something that already has a negative stigma on it and making a precedent with it to make it easier for the next time you try to do it.
Well, through you, Mr. Warden, I would say that from kind of a planning point of view, that's true. If you have an existing use, expanding a use is easier than establishing a use. That's kind of a general principle. Now, this land is a little bit unique because we do have an open space use on it, and, you know, I guess if we started talking about expanding the commercial use, we would look at probably a little more carefully at how those two buffer from each other.
But if it wasn't on the rail, we can make that special, clause that we talked about earlier.
Oh, I see what, yeah, so we're talking about adjoining private land? Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Oh, sorry. I just mean the 15 acres behind that.
You mean part of the required station park that's there now?
Correct. Part of that, the other, pretty much everything else that's zoned agricultural there. What's to stop you from rezoning that when needed later?
Well, again, council can consider applications or proposals at any time, but again, you have to go through this public process.
Nobody else, we move on.
Hi, my name's Sean. I live at 29 Kelly Avenue. My wife actually has part of the dairy farm that Ryan was talking about. So, first of all, I'm looking around the room here, and just quickly, show of hands, how many people don't want this? Councilors, please remember that you do work for us. We are the people for this zoning thing, and we really do not want industrial. Industrial is in Burnside, tons of things there. We do not feel that we need rail access in our area. We like our agriculture, especially because we rely on it every day, and we like how our town is. Thank you.
Excuse me. My name's Roy Nielsen. I'm from Fort Ellis, Colchester County. I'm here representing Country Calvary Baptist Church, right across the road from the site. And none of us there are in favor of it, mainly because it would be a deterrent for residential expansion, and even may lose some of the ones that are there. And our hope is to get more people coming to the church rather than staying away because of houses nobody wants to build there, and for the noise. A rail thing, it could be 24/7, and I haven't talked to anyone in the congregation that would be in favor of it. Just wanted you to consider that.
Good evening. My name's Roy Nicholas. I live down there in Milford. How many of you people live in Milford? Don't want it in your backyard, do you? And I can tell you all right now, they're putting it through whether you want it or not. We've been fighting this since 2006. We've been having meetings. They're not listening to a thing. They want it, and they're gonna put it through. So you may as well just forget about it.
Anybody else wish to speak?
I'm Jessica Boland. I live at 40 Hemlock Drive, but again, part of the dairy farm. We were looking at building a boarding facility for horses. So, which obviously we wouldn't be able to do if this were to go through. So on one hand, you are looking at economic development in terms of the industrial and the rail, but you're also cutting off the local economic development that people want here. And it's not just us, there are other uses for that agricultural land. So you guys could sell it and keep everything status quo. People like us who don't own that specific land could continue with different business models that fit with the culture in our community. Or you can drive us out of the community and we'll go somewhere else. And we won't be the only people because we can't have the businesses and the lives that we want to have here. also just wondering, in terms of citizen engagement, the staff report brings up various complaints and various concerns, but no answer to that. It's kind of just a broad, people were concerned about these random problems, and it was just dismissed. So I'm wondering if there's anything concrete or anything specific to address these concerns.
Sure. I think some of them were addressed in the staff report. We talked about some of those issues, but I also indicated that until there's a proposal, like issues like setbacks or hours of operation, like we're not going to know those things until we actually have a proposal. So it is hard to, I guess, evaluate an impact if you don't know what it is yet. If a DA is required, I mean, there are some uses that could go there as of right, but they would, again, be things that essentially any sort of warehousing or industrial activity that's contained in a building that doesn't emit fumes, dust, or that kind of thing. So it would have to be fairly innocuous without a DA.
So I'm just wondering, in terms of the concerns, we're looking at noise, light pollution, truck traffic, devaluation of property, loss of farmland in compliance with the MGA, lack of commercial interest in the site, the indication the property should be resold, concern for industrial development and the impact on Wigwire Station, and the loss of the food bank property. So a lot of those concerns are not addressed in the staff report, and a lot of them have not been addressed here, other than we can't really say anything because there's nothing firm yet. So again, I mean, if the concern is now in terms of citizens and people, that you're not listening to us now, why should we trust that we can trust you in the future on similar developments? So, I don't know, but I would implore you to not go through with this rezoning.
One more and then we'll clear it. Civil, there might be people here, we don't know that want to speak on the other side, and if everybody's confident in talking, it won't be a force to come to the mic. Keep it civil for everybody.
Justin Hooksource, 1837 Highway 2. I own the dairy farm right next to this property. Right now we have train traffic and noise, and we have trains that block my driveway. It holds up my milk truck, it holds up feed trucks, it puts it at a standstill a lot of days. More rail traffic, is that gonna block me up more? It's very disadvantageous to us because it causes a lot of grief. And that's not even involving if there's propane or gas or whatever they want to unload, what environmental standards are gonna be put in place to keep this all intact.
What would be the process, if there was a further application, would the environment have to approve it, or would there have to be an environmental assessment?
Probably not for development of a site like this. I think in terms of the access, I'm not sure how that process works with CN. We did get comments from CN that they're more than happy to work with somebody to establish rail access here. I think there's something in those regulations about level crossings and so on. I'm just not as familiar with those.
We also rent all the agricultural land the National Gypsum has, and more rail traffic will impede us again if we use their road to go in too. It's getting worse and worse every year, and with more development, what do you do?
Good day, Mr. Chairman. John Landry, Shabonaki. I'm the local farmer. I think we could agree that the land presently is it's ready, yes. Mr. Chairman, can we agree that the farmland now is being actively farmed? I had a question on your Agricultural Advisory Committee. What would be the mandate of that committee in relation to municipality developments?
By policy, that committee was set up by council to advise council on matters related to agricultural land.
So, as we understand it, this is agricultural land being actively farmed. Why did council decline to refer this proposal to this agricultural advisory committee?
It was brought up and voted not to do it, so I can't speak as a council as a whole. I felt it wasn't required.
So, I think it's fair to say that maybe that's a flaw in the application process, and I really think that given those requirements, a visit to the Agricultural Advisory Committee on this topic pretty much is mandatory, and I see that as maybe a violation of your policy, and I would hope that the council would reconsider and ask for input from the Agricultural Advisory Committee.
Any further comments from the audience?
Liz Schwartz, Woodworth Road, Milford. First of all, I must apologize to the area residents who signed the petition against this amendment in rezoning of 1705. Apparently, staff and council were doubtful because there were no addresses attached to the signatures. We'll know better the next time. But we can assure you that all the residents in the affected area of Milford, plus 20 members from Country Calvary Baptist Church, made up approximately 80% of the signatures. The rest of the signatures were Woodward Station Park users, 3 concerned farmers from Shubenacadie area, some people from Hard's Lands, and all of us who prepared the petition can attest to this. So a considerable effort was put into this petition, and it would be a great disappointment to have it overlooked. A number of questions arose from people in the affected area all up and down the road from 1705. Staff report stated that the purchase price of the property was $315,000. What other costs were there, such as legal costs and the extensive cleanup?
I believe,
I don't have it in front of me, but it was around 50 on top of the purchase.
so there was 52,000 on top of the purchase price to clean up the property immediately.
How many other property has the municipality purchased in East Hants for business opportunities, and how many were leapfrog developments that caused widespread turmoil in the neighborhood?
That's a question I don't think we can answer. We bought industrial parks, but property. I don't think we can give you a definitive answer. We bought a couple of the business parks, we bought some tourism properties over on the shore.
How much objection was it to?
I don't know, I wasn't sitting in the seat for all of them, so I can't tell you.
The inland port concept was mentioned. We'd always like to know how much money that was spent on that.
Okay,
contented, unsuspecting citizens suddenly woke up in early 2009 to realize that there were little dots on concept map. Council had kept it under wraps for 3 years. Why?
Can't tell you, can't answer the question. We'll just ask him. Liz, can you talk to the mic? Apparently they can't hear you next door, so if you.
Okay. There's mention of something called policy ED 48. What is that? And when and why was it created?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Ward, that was, when we did the plan review in 2016, you know, this issue was discussed, and that policy resulted, at the time, I can't remember all the back and forth of the discussion, but it was basically council's decision to put a policy in place, not enable something right away, but to enable them to consider future developments through amendments to strategy.
So that policy was put in place so that this could happen.
Well, so that, through you, Mr. Warren, so that rezoning, development, it could have been another policy. We could have created a policy that didn't change the zone, that enabled development agreements, but it definitely put the world on notice, I guess, that council would consider other, you know, amendments for the site.
Interesting. I was also wondering why this wasn't forwarded to the Agricultural Advisory Committee. Another statement was that noxious uses at the site, including dangerous goods, would need further development agreement due to nearby dwellings. Didn't mention the Shubenacadie River. Does this mean that further development agreement might be considered for noxious use?
Well, to you, Mr. Warden, I mean, you saw in the report that there were a couple of uses that we would consider in that category that would require development agreement. That did inquire to the municipality. So if one of those types of uses comes forward and the municipality decides to lease or sell for it, then we would need another DA.
So there could be all kinds of poison over there. You just have to approve it.
I think that's in the future, we can't tell.
Pardon?
That would be in the future, we don't know.
There's a lot of don't knows here. Another section pertaining to proximity to schools, recreation, and community facilities was considered not applicable to the proposal. What about the church and the park? How can you define proximity?
Those policies, Mr. Warden, really relate to property, to strategy amendments in growth centers, and this isn't. So that's why that property was not applicable in the staff report, or growth management area, sorry.
There was a reference to stormwater management. What exactly is appropriate stormwater management in a sensitive area near watershed and wildlife and farm properties? Can you define that?
Through you, Mr. Warden, so I mentioned in the report that environment in their comments, I mean, they actually gave us quite long comments about when a property is developed, there are all kinds of controls that have to be put in place in terms of sedimentation, erosion control. They didn't get into all that in the report. But the more important point I think they made was the water course on the site having potential for an endangered species. So there would actually be quite a review if anything's developed on that site. And you know, if anyone's interested in developing that site, I would bring that up right away and direct them to environment to discuss that issue and how they might mitigate that.
So that's not just noxious use, that's any use they would be subject to environmental.
Yes, if they're in any way going to interact with that water course, it would be a review.
Well, It also says that the developers would be responsible for any environmental concerns or spills. So do we conclude that council and planners are off the hook if the neighbors of the Shubenacadie River get poisoned?
Well, through you, Mr. Ward, I mean, that's always the case. Whoever is the developer and the operator would be responsible for, the operation of the facility, including compliance with dangerous goods regulations and so on.
So we could have dangerous goods there, we could have poison get into the river, and nobody here is responsible. It's the responsibility of the developer, and whether he pays a fine. And where does that leave us?
Mr. Warden, I would add that if municipality state the owner of the land, there could be some liability there. Obviously, if we're leasing the land and we actually own it, there are potentially issues.
Can you get the mic to the point? Maybe Adam, if you can point it, Liz seems to be off to the side there.
Anyway, I read somewhere where uncontrolled exploitation of the countryside is called development by those few who profit from it. Destroyers always find a nice word for a nasty deed. And another one was quoted from Dwight Eisenhower, who said, farming looks mighty easy when you're plowed as a pencil and you're 1,000 miles from the cornfield. Thank you.
Karen Hoaxhorst, 1837 Highway 2, wife to Joseph. Lived in Milford for, it is hard to talk up here, your voice shakes. Been living in Milford for 24 years. I never would have chosen it, but I married a farmer, and I grew to love it. Excuse me. It's ironic that this meeting is held on the day 10 years ago my husband was hit by a train on our property. Thank God he survived it. Back then we were talking about the inland port, and I didn't want to have any more to do with it because I was like, let the damn train come, let it take the farm, whatever. I didn't want anything to do with it. I have 5 children. I have neighbors who have 6 children, more children. We live in Milford because it is beautiful, and it is an agricultural community. And yes, we all understand that, for communities to grow and thrive, there needs to be development. And my God, in 24 years, there certainly has been around. I just think that if we could protect what we have, I mean, that land with Colliers, and there was other farmers who wanted to, propose to the council, could they lease the land? And my husband was one of them, and Sunnycroft Farms was another, and they said no, they had plans of their own. And then you put the beautiful Wickwire Park, and that's great, and everybody uses it. The kids get to go and bike, and the people use their, the dogs, everyone, and all the waterways and all that. I think it's fantastic. But if you're going to rezone that land to industrial use, that's going to take away from that beauty. Let alone the fact that farmers are actually, there's a group of farmers, you all know that are working that for the Canadian Food Grains Bank Project. Right? Those men and women volunteer their time to work that land so that undeveloped countries can use that, the feed, right? It's not for personal use, it's not for feeding the cows, it's for helping other people. So that would be all gone. And I don't know, I just think that it's the wrong decision to East Hants is what we are agriculture. And I think letting go, like someone had said, if we let this little piece go, it would be easy to let another little piece go, and then another little piece. And I just think we really should think long and hard, right? You're starting down a path here that's dangerous. And I know the community is growing and all that good stuff, but we really have to try to protect the agricultural land that we do have. And I mean, I know you understand that. You're all rural people. We're not city people here, right? Nor do we want to be. That's why we live here. That's why we have our children here. And that's why we, we try to keep our business here as well. So just really consider that it is what East Hants is, okay? Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Vandenhoff. I figure since my brother and my husband and my sister-in-law spoke, I might as well speak as well. We own a dairy farm up on Nelson Hill. I can say my whole family signed Liz's petition, all of it. I would also like to question on that if you're only doing about 1/3 of the land to actually change it, that's only 1/3 of the price you bought the land for. Would it not be more beneficial for you to resell it to a farmer who can use it? You could probably sell it for close to that price, 1/3 of it, and you would be making your money back. Instead of trying to go through all these rules and regulations and fight with the community who doesn't want it there in the first place, and trying to change all of these laws and bylaws, you could just actually just put it back to the use it was meant to be and just leave it. And would that not be an option to look at as well?
I don't know about the cost to sell the land, I do know what the appraisal for the, what it would be commercial. All right, if no one's been ready to speak, we'll move on. John, do you have any final comments?
No, sorry.
Okay. I will now ask the Chair of Planning Advisory Committee to print his committee's recommendation.
Gordon?
I'll just hold up the name, some of these mics will take a while, but.
Thank you, Warden. Planning Advisory Committee recommends the council give second reading to amendments to the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw that redesignate and rezone 18 acres of PIN number 450932226 Milford from agricultural reserve AR to industrial commercial IC. Chair of PAC, I so move.
Seconder? Moved and seconded, now open the floor to questions from council. Councilor Smith.
First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody for coming up tonight. There's nothing here that has been said that I don't support. I'm going to go back to the appeal. I've been told that the process that we have taken here can be appealed by a public member. That was a member of the NSFA. They said there were grounds because there was no engagement with the agricultural community.
John, I'll let you comment. I don't, sounds like a legal issue.
Yeah, so the policy in the MPS around the Agricultural Advisory Committee, there's language in there that talks about why council created it and what its purpose is, but it doesn't say everything has to be directed there. Staff recommended that you send this proposal there, but the policy doesn't say that council will or shall send everything related to agricultural into that committee. It's an opportunity to have that input if you want it.
Okay, I'm just not, I think we're getting confused because typically appeal would be the URAD issues. In this issue, it may be able to be challenged in court, but I don't think it would be an appeal. I think it would have to be like a cross action lawsuit.
I was led to believe that it was actually with the board, and it would be with the process that we.
So, I mean, I don't know what John.
To through Mr. Wood, I mean, anyone can try any appeal, I guess, but our process doesn't, when you deal with a standalone rezoning or development agreement, after council approves it, we put an ad in the paper, and there's a 14-day appeal period at which you can send something into the utility review board. In this case, no ad appears. We simply take the amendments and send them off to the Minister of Municipal Affairs. They do whatever sort of review they need to do internally. And sometimes, actually, if it involves agricultural land, then they actually send it over to the Department of Agriculture for input. And then the minister makes a decision, and then the only publication we do is to inform the world that it's now in place. So we never advertise an appeal process. So I'm not aware of how you would launch an appeal, other than some sort of legal challenge to say, I don't know what, that there's something wrong with the process, or there's an error in the law, or something.
Another question just for John. Class 3, how much of our agricultural lands in East Hants are class 3?
Mr. Warren, I don't have the numbers in front of me. There's actually quite a bit. There's there's not that much class 2 soil, really, just a little bit up along the shore. There's quite a bit of class 3. I don't know the percent of the AR zone that is class 3, but I don't have that in front of me.
Actually, that's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. We as councilors, we're sort of the executive level oversight. That's things like policy and budgets, et cetera. So that's how I looked at this. I looked at it from a policy perspective, and I looked at it from an economic. From a policy perspective, we're governed by the Municipal Government Act, and it's pretty clear what you can and you can't do. It includes, as we know as council and staff, 7 statements of provincial interest, things like water, climate change, infrastructure, and a big one is agriculture. And it's pretty clear, to protect viable and sustainable agriculture and prevent conflict and with agriculture and agricultural development. From a municipal perspective, we have our official plan, and it has an entire section dedicated to agriculture because of the importance. And in it, there's one very specific policy goal, the 32 policy statements, which talk about, protection of agricultural land, minimize conflict between agricultural land, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, from a policy perspective, it really was a non-starter. So, but policy, sometimes you have to look at it and there's something else that can change it. So I looked at economic benefit opportunities. There's not a business plan or a proponent. The two that are referenced that expressed some interest, one was gas, and the other one was chemicals. Even if that happens, you still have to unload them, and then you have to truck them through our communities. If you go north, you're going to go through the community in Milford, by our schools, etc. If you go south to the New Lance interchange, you're going to be going right by where we're expecting another 8,000 new residents over the next number of years. CN would also have to be a very major player, and it's privately owned, it's publicly traded, their stocks are very high value, and so I went into why are they so high value, and it's a company that makes money for its shareholders, and what its direction is. Large loads from major centers over long distances, that's where they make their money. So I was looking at rail sidings and things like that, and they've made a concerted effort to get rid of, is probably not the right word, but probably divest in a lot of the rail sidings around the country. I know in Southern Ontario, the prairies, etc. Even looking at that locally, there was grain unloading in Milford, it's gone. There was grain unloading in Stewiacke, it's gone. Brookfield, it's gone. Oxford, it's gone. So I'm not sure how interested CN would even be to consider participating in a small rail siding, in this area. When I read our own official plan under the agriculture section, which is well written, it also appears that commercial related businesses to agriculture, and this is a question for you, John, could still take place on those lands without rezoning. Would that be correct?
Sorry, what could take place?
Like under our official plan, agricultural lands along the rail line there, agriculture related unloading could still take place without rezoning the land?
Through you, Mr. Warden, yes. So the AR zone would allow any use that's related to agriculture. So if it was, you know, you were just loading or unloading grain or, you know, something like that at a siding, that would be permitted in the AR zone, yes.
I guess when I look at all of that, you know, from a zoning perspective, an economic benefit perspective, I can't support the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I have a question for you or the councillors that were here when the municipality bought the land or the farm. Were those people consulted when you did your purchase, or only the councillor here made that decision? So those people were not. Okay. The road that goes to the park, is that the same road that's going to be used for the entrance to the park, to the business park, or is it? They're going to use the same?
Well, through you, Mr. Warden, the quarry access road as far as the beginning of the site, but I mean, there would obviously be a dedicated driveway into any facility developed there off of that road. Apart from the, you know, the road that we built across the property to get down to the park area.
So I just want to state that none of our kids or grandkids are going to be running on that road. It's not going to be going there, so it's very touching for me, because I come from agriculture too. So if something happened to one of those kids, are we going to be able to live with it? I don't think so anymore. And I've been here on council for, that's my 4th year, and I've seen it all, but I've never seen something like that. And I remember one person from Montpelier, when we did the planning review, he had a small lot that he wanted to put commercial on it, just to put a wood lot on it, and we refused it until we did the review, and the other councilors, Sir McDonald pushed for it, and we barely did it for him. Remember that? And the reason was because the planning decided that this area is going to be residential. It's not agriculture, it's residential. So now, because few councilors that made that decision, I think, back then, trying to fix that decision, they want to. And I think they're going to pass it, but I'm not going to vote for it. Thank you.
Councillor McGinnis. Second to
Thank you, Warden. I agree with a lot of what Councillor King and Councillor Musa had to say. Part of our planning strategy is to protect the rural landscape by permitting uses that are compatible with the rural environment. One of the objectives is to ensure the East Hants official community plan is effective in managing changes in the community, reducing land use conflict, and protecting both natural resources and community character. Clearly, it's a living, dynamic document which must be flexible to lead to a thriving community. However, in the case of 1705 Highway to Milford, I think we are putting a change in place without cause. If a third party was requesting a rezoning for a specific purpose, we could evaluate the specifics. In this case, we have no specifics. In addition, we are currently owners of land which provides a beautiful park and recreation opportunities for our residents, as well as having volunteer farmers grow grain for the World Grain Bank to help feed those in need. I believe the municipality could advertise this with a sign on the way to the park referring to the municipal land ownership and volunteer farmers from East Hants community growing grain for the World Grain Bank. I believe the land is being used in a very beneficial way while maintaining the lifestyle the neighboring residents want to preserve. Therefore, I won't be supporting the rezoning motion. Thank you.
If no councilor up to speak, if no one's going to speak, I'd ask for the question. Question been called, we'll go to the vote. All votes are in, the motion is passed. 6-5. Councilor Dixon voting no, Councilor Musa voting no, Councilor Smith voting no, Councilor McInnes voting no, Councilor King voting no, myself voting yes, Alderman Head voting yes, Alderman Ralston yes, Rhino yes. Sorry, Elaine Green. Sorry, it was Deputy Warden, with the chairperson voting yes, and myself and Councilor Green. So it is passed. Thank you all for coming. We move on to the second item on the public hearing schedule, is a proposal to amend the subdivision bylaw related to the open space percentage report.
Planning Advisory Committee has considered the proposal on behalf of Municipal Council. The committee has reviewed staff's reports. They concluded their evaluation and will make a recommendation to council during this hearing. Mr. Warden's review, I will now ask staff to present their final report on the proposal.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Warden. The MGA authorizes municipalities to adopt a subdivision bylaw that requires open space dedication as part of the subdivision process. In East Hants, a developer must convey to the municipality 10% of the area of land in serviced areas and 5% in unserviced areas. Subdivisions of 3 lots or less are exempted in the serviced area. Subdivisions of 5 lots or less are exempted in the unserviced area, and subdivisions of 10 lots or less are exempted in the rural subdivision development area. The MJ also authorizes municipalities to accept or require equivalent value contributions, that is, in lieu of land as open space. The current East Hants subdivision bylaw needs amended to make it clear that there are instances where the municipality will require an equivalent value contribution versus land, and staff have drafted and are recommending such amendments. And most of the changes here are actually reorganizing this section. The key change is really at the top here, where it says the municipality may accept from the subdivider or may require. That's the part that's really important to have been added, to make it clear the municipality can accept it, but can also require it of the developer. And that proposed change is consistent with your open space policies in the NPS. So I refer to OS 19 where it says, council shall specify those instances as determined under the subdivision bylaw where land only, equivalent value only, or a combination thereof shall be transferred. As a result, there is no corresponding amendment to the NPS required because you've already set that policy up. And really, we just didn't get the wording right when we did the 2016 plan review. Honestly, it was just, it should have married up with that policy a little bit better than it did. In terms of engagement, you do have a policy that requires, when considering amendments to the subdivision bylaw, that an initial notice be placed using the municipal website, an area newspaper, and that the municipality consult any identified stakeholders. So as a result, we did place a notice in the weekly press. Unfortunately, that was the next week the ad was to appear was actually the week it stopped publishing. So that ad never did actually appear. However, staff did advertise on the municipal website and circulate information regarding the change to our, what we consider the stakeholders in this case, which is really the East Hants Development Community via email. And we were able to reach over 70 individuals and corporations as a result of that effort. And all those responses were appended to the staff report for your review. And the responses from the development community included concern that credit be given for previous open space dedication and phase subdivisions, questioning where money collected is spent, and whether it's near a subdivision where the money is collected, and wondering why cash in lieu was required in the past if this is an old law. Statement that the choice should remain with the developer. Basically, they're saying we should keep the status quo, that it should be up to the developer and not up to the discretion of the municipality. That's the end of the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Does any member of council have any questions
Warden, I was just thinking about, the fact, I believe it said somewhere that staff went out to the development community for opinions on this change, and so through the warden, I was just wondering if you're able to share what some of their opinions were. Thank you.
Sure, Mr. Warden, that is on that last slide there, so I just summarized there, and then the actual emails I just appended to the report, so they're all there verbatim as I received them. But there were I guess those four main concerns that there was one developer who was doing a phase subdivision over many years, who was worried that they continue to receive credit for previous dedication, and Kelly was in touch with him after that email to make sure he understood this really didn't impact him, so that was fine. There was also a question about where the money was collected and whether or not we spend the money in the same community. And then there was also wondering why we've asked for cash in lieu in the past if it wasn't already a requirement. And then the last point about really just saying that we shouldn't do this, that it should remain the discretion of the developer.
Thank you, through the chair. So were we able to answer, I mean, so giving credit for previous open space, I think is probably a given. Questioning where money collected is spent, and if it's in the same subdivision, were we able to answer that question? Is that?
Through you, Mr. Warden, I haven't gotten back to all the emails yet. Really, I took them as comments for your information. There'll probably be some follow-up with a couple of them, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Warden.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. This question moving on. In the collection of this, small-scale developers don't have the ability to just come forward with cash. So we thought was before a committee was ensuring that on a small-scale development, there can be a set up plan where they're not having to put their money up front before they actually develop and actually get some funds back in.
Well, through you, Mr. Warden, just going back to yeah, so there are already exemptions for small developments that are already here. So again, 3 lots or less in the serviced area are exempted, 5 lots or less in the unserviced area, and 10 lots or less. So you can go up to 10 in what we call the rural subdivision development area, which is sort of what we sometimes call the unplanned area most of the time. But in the Mount Uniacke area, most of that would be the 5 lots or less. So those subdivisions would be exempted. Otherwise, they would have to enter into an agreement if they're phasing in their open space contribution. So that's something that gets negotiated between Adam's staff and the subdivider, and then Kelly approves the subdivision based on that agreement.
That's just what I was making sure that there is a process where somebody, if they had a bunch of land in the appropriate zone, that they could develop it, they could come to an agreement that it could be phased, so we're not pushing out small developers or entrepreneurs into developing the property. That's what I want to make sure. That process wasn't there. Thank you.
Councilor Lucy.
You said Mount Uniacke there are 5 lots. So if somebody divides 5 lots of the land and he sold the remaining land, then the guy who bought it started another subdivision. So could he subdivide another 4?
No, through Mr. Warden, if you start with that parent parcel, it doesn't matter who owns it. Once you have done those 5 lots, and if you keep subdividing from that parent parcel, then you do have to do open space.
If somebody else bought it, even too?
Even if someone else bought it, so it runs with the land.
Oh, thank you.
Councilor. No one wants to speak? We'll now open the floor for comments and questions. If anybody has any comments, please come to the mic and identify your name and your address.
Hi, I'm Joanne McIntyre, and I live at 41 Bella Vista Lane. I just had a question. I'm just trying to understand the bylaw change. So if you're accepting money in lieu from developers, does that mean that money could go to other green spaces within the municipality, for example, like the 9 Mile River Trails?
I'm going to let staff answer that. Typically, it does get used in the area directly adjacent to where it came from.
right, but I mean, monies like that, I mean, Nine Mile River Trail serves as multiple communities, not just one. And at what point do you have a density of, so many parks or playgrounds? At what point does that become too many for one area where that money could be maybe better repurposed or reused in other green spaces that service an entire area rather than just a small area?
Yeah. Adam, he's got his mic on, I'll let Adam speak to that. In the past, it hasn't been a large accumulation we ended up there. Like I know that there was some of the green space funds that were used to develop the Lions Park from the developments very close by.
Through you, Mr. Chair, exactly to that point. So we do try to, with open space money, we do collect the cash in lieu. It is meant, the intended purpose is to go back into that area for improvements to the surrounding area. So it doesn't typically go to other parts of the municipality.
And with some of the larger developments, the cash in lieu is being used to develop the open space trails right within the park to make sure that the residents
Okay, thank you, just that was worth asking.
Thanks for asking. Does anybody else wish to speak?
Jake Stonehouse from Shubenacadie. I was asked to give input from a development perspective, and one of the concerns I shared was we're doing a project in another municipality right now where it's an amenities-driven project. It's a 50-plus seniors development and a family development, and we're spending over $1 million in amenities, mostly recreation and social. And I think it's a very poor choice to take away the option for the developer to give either land or money. In our case, we're already spending probably 5 times what we would if we were being charged an amount. But those amenities are critical to the development of the whole project. And I think to change that from either or to the municipality can say it has to be cash, and especially on a project that is already doing a lot of on-site development is a bit unfair. And so I just wanted to share that. One other thing, just observing the previous one, and I know we're not supposed to go back, but it was very disappointing the way that it was presented. It's okay, thank you.
Anybody else who wants to speak? Only 4 people, so if everybody's saying no, we'll move on to the next phase. So we're going to ask the Chair of Planning Advisory Committee to present this committee's report.
Mr. Warden, Planning Advisory Committee recommends the council give second reading to amendments to the subdivision bylaw that make it clear that there are circumstances where the municipality will require an equivalent value contribution in lieu of land to meet the open space dedication requirements. Chair of PACI, so moved.
And moved and seconded. Are there any final questions or comments from municipal councilors? Seeing none, I'll ask the question. Question. Call, we'll go to the vote. All the votes are in. The motion is passed 9-4, 2 against. Councilor Musa and Councilor McGinnis voted nay. So that concludes tonight's public hearings. Thanks for attending. I'll go back to the original agenda. And I believe we have now reached the time to set the time and date of the next council meeting, February meeting in council. I said earlier that I was interjected and said unless anybody has questions, and if someone does have questions, I will take them. And we have a budget meeting tomorrow night. Councilor Green may have questions.
No, Mr. Warden, I'm going to get the rest of tomorrow night after work from the week. Next 2 Thursday.
Oh, yeah. You have some questions. Can't believe it.
I'll ever see.
How did you ever convince him to give you that shirt?
Huh? He's in Vegas.
Yeah, this should be your representative. Anyway, so we have a motion on the floor, moved and seconded to set the time and date. All in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion is passed.